The Dallas Cowboys just made what might be the best move of the offseason when all things are said and done. And that was that they traded a 5th-round pick to the New England Patriots for former Tennessee Volunteer Joe Milton. Now, again, if you haven't heard of Joe Milton, that's okay. You know, he was a 6th-round pick last year. That said, he was one of the more talented QBs in a very, very deep QB class. He has, the greatest, mix of size, speed, and arm strength that you really want to have. And he has a great deal of intangibles when it comes to his ability to have pocket presence and move around in the pocket. It's pretty impressive. So, again, you have this insanely talented QB with, vertical size. He's 6'5", 240. Athleticism, again, ran like a 4.5. And, arm strength. He can throw the ball 60, 70 yards on the field with seems like relative ease. And again, yes, he's still raw as a QB prospect. He's got to learn how to go through his progressions. He's got to learn how to, read defenses at a high level. But still, those things are things that every QB prospect basically has to learn regardless. So the fact that you got a guy who has the raw physical talent and can learn that. And again, he's already played a game in the season. He played versus the Buffalo Bills, I think, in week 15. So he's definitely had NFL experience on, the field. And he didn't play too badly. He threw like a touchdown, 260 yards. I think he threw an interception too. So he's not amazing. But again, when you have that level of talent, that's incredible. That talent level is astronomical. And if he can reach his peak, he's going to be a top 5 QB in this league. That's how much talent he truly has. And then, to be honest, I'm really impressed because the Cowboys basically spent a 5th-round pick for a guy who could end up being their franchise QB for the next decade or so. And that's just incredible. That's a great move for them. At the very least, at the very worst, they lose a 5th-round pick, which really isn't that important in the grand scheme of things. But again, that's what they could gain from that. And again, at the very least, he'll make their preseason games far more exciting to watch. I know I'll be watching those games much more closely now because I can't wait to see what he's going to be able to do, especially if Dak Prescott isn't healthy enough to play in the first couple games of the season, depending on how bad the injury he took was. We might get to see Joe Milton a little sooner than later. And if he can hit off and reach his potential, or even reach something closer to his, overall potential, he's going to be an absolute demon for that team. He could end up bringing them into another dynasty if they have an actual QB, a super talented QB on their side again. So yeah, anyway, that's just my thoughts on that video, my thoughts on this topic, Tiger Pack, and I'll see you guys again in the next Black Tiger Break Talk.